Well, welcome to How to Be Happy. My name is Gordy Smith. I'm one of the pastors at Heartland, and I think we're in for a great 6 weeks together. You know, this pursuit of happiness is something that seems like all of us have in common, and yet it's kind of elusive. Is there a way that we can be intentional about our happiness? What is it that makes us happy? I heard in Andy Stanley's message, he said the question, "What makes you happy?" And I thought about that and thought, you know, what is it? It's kind of hard to think of things, and one of the things that came to my mind was Whitey's ice cream. Whitey's is this ice cream place in the Quad Cities that makes these great shakes. And I thought about, you know, when I'm eating a Whitey's shake, that makes me happy. And then about 2 hours later, I'm still happy, but I realized I'm not as happy as I was when I was eating the shake. And then when I think about the fact that the shakes make me fat, that makes me unhappy. And so I realized happiness is kind of this elusive topic that we're going to look at for 6 weeks with questions like, can we be intentional? Are there certain things that we can do in our life that actually move us towards happiness? Or is it just kind of a fleeting, sometimes it's there, sometimes it's not kind of a deal? A couple things that I would let you know about your group experience. Thanks for stepping into a group because, you know, there's something about this topic and a lot of topics that very seldom in our life do we have conversations of substance anymore. You know, it seems like most of our conversations these days are, you know, 140 characters or less as we text people or, you know, Twitter. But there's something about sitting down with people and having a conversation that has some meaning to it. And my hope for you and your group this 6 weeks is that's what this will be. And so a couple things that you can do to prepare for that. One is, if you haven't already, get a copy of the study guide. There's some great stuff in here that will include questions for your group, as well as some devotionals and just things to help you think through the whole process. And so get a hold of a copy of that, bring it with you to the group, and you guys will use those together. And then there's the DVD, and we've put a DVD together that you will use every week. And let me tell you a little bit about what you'll experience on the DVD. Every week you'll hear a short teaching from Josh on the topic for that week that will help tee up the discussion for you and your group. And then you'll hear from some friends of ours who will talk about the topic as it relates to them and begin sharing parts of their story with you, all in an attempt to make it easy for you to go right from the DVD into a great conversation in your group. Now, there's 3 sets of questions in the study guide. Every session has kind of its own chapter, and there's 3 sets of questions. One is a share your story question, which will really kind of help you get to know the other people in your group, or get to know them better if you already know each other. And then there's a section called Hear God's Story, and those are questions that really will help us process the content of that topic. And then the third one is Create a New Story, and that's really where we begin to say, how does this apply to my life, and how can I put this into action into my life moving forward? And so know this, there are more questions than you will have time to get to. So don't hold your host or leader responsible. For some of you that are rule followers, it may bother you that you're not getting to every question. We've done that on purpose so that your leader and your host and your group can figure out together what questions that we want to get to. And so know that you're not going to get to all the questions, but it'd be really good to make sure you get to all 3 sections so you can talk about the content. You can also talk about application. And then at the beginning of every session, we're going to put a couple of songs of worship that Doug and Corey and our worship team have recorded just for you in your group. And we've found that maybe this is a new experience for you, but our groups are loving having just a few minutes at the beginning of every session to just sing a couple of songs together. And so we're going to start today's session with that. So sit back and enjoy and sing along if you want to. And we think you're going to love this. And so welcome to How to Be Happy. Have a great first session as a group.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see. My chains are gone, I've been set free. My God, my Savior has ransomed me. Amazing grace. 'Twas grace that taught my heart to fear, and grace my fears relieved. How precious did that grace appear the hour I first believed. My chains are gone, I've been set free. My God, my Savior has ransomed me. And like a flood, His mercy reigns, unending love, amazing grace. My chains are gone, I've been set free. My God, my Savior has ransomed me. And like a flood, His mercy reigns, unending love, amazing grace, unending love, amazing grace.
Well, hey, welcome everybody. I am so excited about the experience that we're going to have together over the next several weeks. I'm mostly thrilled by the courage that you've shown to pursue God, connected with some others, and to share in this experience together. You know, as we get started here, I just want you to think for a moment about the happiest person you know. Like the most joyful person in your life, someone that you know that's just authentically joyful, positive. They have confidence in God. They're optimistic when they think about the future. They just sort of bring a breath of life and energy into you. We all have people in our life like that. I've got one guy in particular that comes to my mind that every time I see him, he just brings joy to my life. Now, kind of contrary to that, I want you to bring to mind the most joy-challenged, unhappiest person that you know. Why was that so much easier? Think of someone who is negative, bitter, kind of a complainer, maybe says no a lot. Now, don't make the mistake of looking at them right now, and don't poke them in the ribs. Just think about them. Now, think about a place. Where's the happiest place on earth? Yeah, you're thinking it, aren't you? Disney World, right? And it is. It's so happy until, of course, you're on your way out of the park and it's 10 o'clock at night and your children are hungry and cranky and tired. And then you wonder, where did all the happiness go? And how much did I just spend to buy this little tantrum right now? You know, I was thinking, what if our church became the happiest place on earth? I mean, what if any time that someone came to Heartland, they just felt happy? Embraced an overwhelming sense of joy in the presence of a bunch of people who genuinely wanted them to be here. What if that was your experience, even in the group that you're gathered in right now? Quick, everybody smile. Like, what if when people heard the word Christian, instead of thinking about the word judgmental or closed-minded or exclusive or proud, what if they actually thought joyful? You know, people who are just kind of like generous and full of life. You know, I think we're hungry for that sort of thing. And I think it often seems elusive to us in our life. But what we all really want in life is just to be happy. But have you ever wondered how? I mean, our culture has a lot to say about happiness. We say, don't worry, be happy, as if it's a choice that we make that is always that simple. We go to McDonald's and we order a Happy Meal. Instant happiness in a greasy cardboard box, complete with a toy. After work, we may go to a happy hour and celebrate that work is done for another day or so. We tell our kids, I don't care what you do for a living, I just want you to what? I just want you to be happy. We spend so much money and time and effort chasing happiness. But I have something to say that might be a surprise to you. There's a really good chance that you don't even know what would make you happy. You're probably thinking, sure I do. I mean, I've got friends, I've got a spouse, my kids, my pet, sometimes my pet more than my kids, my job. These are the things that make me happy. Or maybe it's a hobby that you're really into, or a sport that you love, or maybe it's traveling or watching movies or enjoying great food. I love to enjoy great food. Those things make me happy, you think. And they're all good things. And I'm so glad that you have them in your life. But as we launch into this series, I want to challenge you with this. The real source of happiness isn't anything that you can buy, or a place that you can visit, or even a family member or a friend. Those things might add value, might add pleasure to your life, but what happens when you lose the job, or the car gets totaled, or the trip is over, or you lose the person that you love? You see, these are good things, but they can't be the source of happiness. Real happiness has to be grounded in more than our circumstances. It has to be rooted in a connection to God. Follow me here. When you're in a relationship with God, when you're at peace with Him, as we're going to discover in this series, then you can have peace with yourself. We can own our mistakes. We can discover our talents. We can accept our past. We can look forward to our future. When we're connected to God and growing in our relationship with Him, then we can truly be everything that we were designed to be. And when we have peace with ourselves, then naturally the byproduct is we can have peace with other people. Happiness comes. Andy Stanley says this. He says, happiness is about a who, not a what. Happiness is about a who, not a what. Happy people are at peace with God, with other people, and with themselves because they're at peace first with a who. And those three things, connection to God, to ourselves, to other people, that is the source of all happiness. And I love it. We learn this from Jesus, of course. One time an expert in the law confronted Jesus, tried to trick him, but Jesus used that conversation as this opportunity to teach about real happiness. And we've looked at this in our previous group experience. In fact, we did. But I just want this scripture, this story, to sink in even deeper still. Here's how it went down in Matthew 22. It says that hearing this, Jesus silenced the Sadducees, and then the Pharisees got together. And one of them, an expert in the law, tested Jesus with this question. He said, "Teacher, which is the greatest commandment in the law?" And Jesus replied, maybe you remember this, "Love the Lord your God with all of your heart, with all of your soul, and with all of your mind. This is the first and the greatest commandment." Remember this verse? And the second, Jesus said, is like it. Love your neighbor as yourself. All of the law and the prophets hang on these two commandments. So Jesus is posed with this question, and how does he answer them? It's very simple. He says the greatest commandment is to love God with your whole life. That's what's most important. And the second is to love other people deeply and sacrificially. That too is of the highest importance. So just a few words. See, before we get into this, we got to learn a little bit from this story. First is this, if you obey these two commandments, Jesus says, you're actually pretty close to obeying all of the religious laws. That's good news, huh? Because every one of them goes back to either loving and trusting God or loving and serving other people. And second, Jesus teaches us that this is the path to happiness. Because this is how we grow in our relationship with God and with other people. The legal expert wanted to see if Jesus would give the correct answer, and instead Jesus just like blows the whole thing wide open. Instead of rules to follow, this passage is giving us a pathway to life. We often think of following God as actually getting in the way of our happiness. It like keeps us from having all of the fun, right? And so we can either like be really good religious people or we can be happy. But the truth is that it's not about religious laws at all. It's about having a growing relationship with God and then letting that change everything about how we relate to our life. That probably will mean making some different choices. Because when we disobey God, we know, don't we, that we hurt others. We move away from following these two commands. But it also means that those choices can lead us to a better, more joyful, more fun, more happy life. In fact, I think it leads us to the best life possible. And that can start today. It can start right now. We don't have to wait for the husband of your dreams or the perfect wife or successful kids or a new job or car or cruise or even the next trip to Disney. Happiness is about a who, not a what. And you grow in your love of God. And as you do that, you begin to understand who He is, and you build your relationship deep into Jesus' love, and it's from the wellspring of life found in Him that it spills into overflowing and begins to affect everything about you. This is the source. It's where real, true happiness begins. And as we will see throughout this series, we have so many friends who are discovering this to be true in their life too.
As I got into high school and just learned more about who I am and just wanting to chase after things that bring me joy and excitement. One of those things was track, and so I was a runner and a jumper, and so as I got into that, that became the one thing in my life that literally everything else, the outflow of my life was. And that's all that I could think about when I would go to a meet is, placing in the top 4 so that I could have that little chunk of metal that would tell me that I was good enough.
I grew up in a single parent home. I didn't have a dad whatsoever. And I really longed for that relationship, just as natural as anybody does. As I got older, or when I got old enough, I ended up working in the entertainment business as a dancer. And it gave me everything that I wanted. It gave me men acknowledging me. It gave me just the want.
I started to really focus on work so much that that's where I found my happiness. Some of my friends fell off. My relationships with my family got put to the side because of my job.
It was honestly through an injury where I literally couldn't perform and I couldn't chase after that medal anymore that God just really humbled me through that.
I lost it all. I ended up getting pregnant with my daughter, so I had to quit the job. I lost everything. So everything that I had worked for, which made me unhappy, I lost it all.
But it took my boss literally saying, "Nick, what's going on?" And going, "This can't happen," from the boss perspective, but then taking that hat off of the boss and saying, "As your friend, this worries me." I didn't realize. I did not realize who I had become.
A friend of mine that I used to work under, my old boss, he always invited me to church, but I never wanted to go. And I said yes, so I finally just said yes. And I got there, and it was just like, the sermon just burned my seed.
When my boss had that conversation, which I will continue to this day and probably for years remember, it caused me to start thriving again. I'm not who I was a year ago. I'm not who I was 2 years ago. And if I still was that person, I wouldn't be in the position I'm in right now.
It was not even a month after that I had a mentor of mine tell me about this organization working with inner city kids. And so that was my first experience in ministry. And so I really feel like God used that injury in my life to show me what he had in the future. Because like I said, it was literally a month after that I had gotten my first ministry experience working with kids and working with students. And that was 6 years ago. And now I find myself in full-time youth ministry. And had that injury not had happened, who knows where I would be today.
They kept talking about a relationship with God, and I was like, well, I've tried men, I've tried money, why not try, this? I can't explain the change in my life that it's brought me. I didn't think that I was good enough for him, but God's for everybody.